আচ্ছা, তাহলে ঠিক আছে, আর একটু ওয়েট করি, সবাই আসুক। Here, let's start our today's lecture. And last class, we studied about the igneous rocks, its formation, different types of igneous rocks, and thereafter the lithification process in which the igneous rock is transformed to sedimentary rock. Also, the different agents and processes responsible for sedimentary rock formation. In this lecture, we will start from the classification of sedimentary rocks. The classification of sedimentary rocks actually depends on the mode of formation that we discussed earlier. The sedimentary rocks are mainly classified in three categories. First one is the clastic rocks, second one is chemically formed rocks, and third one is organically formed rocks. From the name of each classes, it can be easily identified that in which process the rock is formed. Actually, based on the formation process, the classification is done. So, it starts the first one, the clastic rocks. These rocks is actually formed by the consolidation and cementation, and this is consolidation cementation products are actually if these products are come from the erosion and then carried out by a suspension and deposited in a very conventional one, and then go for consolidation and cementation. So these category types of rocks are classified as the clastic rocks. Here are some examples of clastic rocks: argillaceous rocks, arenaceous rocks, silt rock, rhodaceous rocks, etc. So the first one is the main constituents of first one is the shell. That means clay particles. That means as we discussed in last class, the riverbed or other valley of the hill mainly carry the clay, silt, sand particles, and then it deposited in a certain portion, and thereafter with some geological processes and changes, it's go for the cementation and consolidation, which forms a type of sedimentary rock. So in this process, if the primary or main constituent is the clay, that means the major constituent, if the major is the clay, the resultant sedimentary rock will be named as the shell. Okay, and then if the major constituent is sand, so the resulting sedimentary rock will be named as sandstone. Similarly, if the resulting rock is silt, so the silt rocks, this will be named as siltstone. Okay, and the rhodaceous rocks, those are the the main constituents are the large particles. That means in some portions of the hill, you may find some small round pitch of gravel. That means smaller size, like the pear shape. Round gravels. So if those types of gravels are also deposited in the layer, and thereafter it's go for the lithification process or any other process of the sedimentary rock formation, the resulting rocks, those will be named as the rhodaceous rocks. So these types of rocks are actually very well known to you, and like the shell, sandstone, siltstone, etc. While you are traveling in the
স্যার স্ক্রিন শেয়ার তো হচ্ছে না
হচ্ছে না, এখন স্ক্রিন দেখা যাচ্ছে না, চেঞ্জ হয়েছে
স্যার। হ্যাঁ স্যার, ক্লাসিক রক স্যার। স্যার ক্লাসিক রক স্যার ওইটা স্যার আছে।
আচ্ছা, হ্যাঁ, তাহলে তো চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না, না? ওকে, প্রবলেম, ওয়েট। Clastic rocks, and in next category, so the products of the weathering materials, that means the sediments which carried out through if carried out through a solution, those may be separated by precipitation. That means the larger particles will settle first and the finer particles will move some other distance and will be deposited in layer by layer. So on the deposition, this precipitation, deposition and consolidation, this results if we go for a certain solution, that means water or any other solution, or liquid materials. So this in those cases sometimes chemical interaction is occurred, and like if the water or the deposition portions contains some cementing materials, so the some self cementation, that means the rock formation is initiated by the chemical action, so these will be called the chemically formed rocks, like the carbonate rocks, silicous rocks, ferruginous rocks, and the salt rock. So the first one is the carbonate rock. That means the chief constituents will be calcium and magnesium carbonate in the composition, and the main such as the limestone. So as I discussed later last class, the lime have some bonding property. So if in any area lime actually in found in the nature as a in the mine or as a mineral. So for those cases, as if the solution contains suitable amount of calcium carbonate or magnesium carbonate, or like calcium sulfate, those are known as gypsum. So when these types of materials or minerals are contains in the solution and the sediment, the resulting rock will be named as the limestone. Similarly, the silicous rocks, so the silica-rich composition will be found in the as main constituents in these types of rock. And if the ferruginous materials like the iron deposit, if the main for any deposition, so these rocks will be categorized as the ferruginous rock. And the last one is the salt rock. If the salt constituents are if the main portion of any rock, of sedimentary rock, so those will be termed as the salt rocks. The very common example of salt rock is the as I also discussed in the first class, the Himalayan pink salt. This is actually nowadays very available in market. In solid forms, it look like pink type pinkish color, or if it is the powdered, so the color is become the fade. So these rocks are actually collected from salt are actually collected from the mine in the Pakistan, in the hilly areas. By mining these rocks, large rock fragments are collected. So these are the examples of rock salt. So the salt contents are the main constituents. And the last one, this is the third one, the organically formed rocks. These organically formed rocks, that means here some organic activities will occur if some microorganisms, those if those are present in the solution. That means the media, if the media contains the microorganisms, and later it change the microorganism actually have different phases, you may also know later. So these microorganisms actually acts as an agents, and in fact uh, they mobilize the rock formation process, as well as after their death those portions also remain in the rock deposition. So those are also accumulated, and finally after consolidation and giving such organically formed rocks. Here are some example: calcareous rock, siliceous rock, phosphatic rocks, ferruginous rock, carbonaceous rock, etc. So one example, I just want to show some Discrete example I need like to discuss, like the carbonaceous rocks. That means the chiefly carbonaceous in composition. That means carbon will be in composition. The main example is the coal deposit. Actually, the coal those are collected from the mining. Actually, the one type of sedimentary rock, nothing but a sedimentary rocks. Those are actually the fossil of plant or maybe other animals, etc. Those types of living matters, those when due to some geological changes or the natural disasters, hence those plants and animals are actually deposited in a layer, and thereafter some microorganism or living organisms helps them to degrade. That means those are as this is the biodegradable materials. So these matters will be degraded by the living microorganisms, and thereafter it will transform in coal. So this is one type of sedimentary rock, and the last one, our last types of rock, those are the metamorphic rock. This metamorphic rock actually the transformed version of sedimentary rock or igneous rocks will depends on the situation. Actually, we as we discussed in the rock cycle, so this is a continuous process. Metamorphic rock also can go back for the igneous and sedimentary rocks also. So the igneous rock and the sedimentary rocks, when these types of rocks are subjected to metamorphism, uh, the one terms is appears the metamorphism. Mm, so we'll also discuss about the metamorphism. What are the agents of metamorphism as well? The this required a certain characteristic change. That means their texture, structure, mineral composition, etc. These will be changed. That means due to metamorphism, the igneous rock or sedimentary rocks will change their shape, structure, mineral composition, etc. And then we will call them an metamorphic rock. This is a new group of rock. One example, the granite. This is an igneous rocks. When it go for the metamorphism, and the resulting metamorphic rock will be named as gneiss. So this is an example. So let's discuss about the details of metamorphism. The metamorphism is an complex process in which the effect of heat, fluids, three main agent, that means heat, pressure, and chemically active fluids. Those bring about the change of the texture, structural, and mineralogical change in the pre-existing rocks. That means the rock is already formed. That means sedimentary rock or igneous rocks. So this is actually the transformation, and or something like the improvement of its property. So always not improvement, sometimes may also occur the reverse process. So this is the metamorphism process. So basically main three agents, the heat, pressure, and the chemically active fluids. So let's discuss one by one. The first agents of metamorphism is the heat. So this is evident that the earth interior surface, that means the core of the earth have the higher temperature compared to the outer shell. That means as we move throughout the center of the earth, the temperature will gradually increasing. So and the inner portion of the earth is still very hot. So the part of the heat, the internal heat is actually act as an agent of metamorphism. So this heat actually radiate outward and generate this heat also generate various types of radioactive elements as well. So these types of radioactive elements also sometimes can be a part of the metamorphism. That means this metamorphism process actually is predominant in the greater depth. That means where the temperature is sufficient. So And another source of heat for the metamorphism is the igneous intrusion. That means, and while forming igneous rock, and we discussed about the intrusive igneous rock, extrusive igneous rocks. In the intrusive igneous rocks, actually, the molten magmatic materials, the hot molten magmatic materials, the intrusion of those materials in the voids, existing voids of the rock layer, or finally the forms the shields, dikes, or lacolic, these types of structures. So the question may arise: these molten bodies actually penetrate and then formed in the igneous rock. Parallelly, this heat, the heat also released from these magmatic materials. So these heats may also have a function. The surroundings rocks may go for metamorphism, although the effect may be negligible. But these heat also provide the metamorphism from the for the surroundings. Actually, in the if in the shallower depth, that means uh, from very close, if the very close to Earth's surface, so there have some sedimentary rock. Those are is loosely formed or may not go for more transformation. So those rock actually have another chance to go for metamorphism. So this is the effect of heat. And the next one is the pressure. So another important factor of metamorphism, this is the pressure, which is always present in varying degree. That means the pressure actually depends on the one parameter for the varying pressure is the depth. This is the directly in proportional to depth. That means, and if we go for further depth from the surface, the weight of overlying layer. That means, if suppose if I consider a thickness of deposition at 100-meter depth from the Earth's surface. So the overlying this 100-meter overlying materials will also create a pressure. That means this is very commonly known as the surcharge load, or the effective stress of soil or rock from the overlying layer. So this is one type of pressure. This is also varying with depth. And the another direct pressure. This is the from direct pressure from the weight of the rock. And another one is the compressional stress, or lateral pressure. The direct pressure of the overlying layer also always provide compressional stress. That means vertical stress in the vertical direct one axis. And the lateral pressure, this will be induced by a lateral movement of the tectonic plates or the deposits. That means when this earthquake occurs, the tectonic plates are moved compared to one another. For these types of movement, the depositions or the sedimentary rocks or maybe igneous rocks, those are feel some pressure from the side wave pressure. So this is another agent. And the last one is the chemically active fluids. So the chemically active fluids like the liquid and vapors, those play another important roles for the metamorphism. The mineral transformations and the formation of new minerals are observed in this chemical due to the action of chemically active fluids, or sometimes um, gases. Those may contain radioactive elements as well. So these are actually dissolved gas. Water also sometimes as act as a metamorphosis agent, because the flow of hot water inside the earth, or some cases again noted. And obviously those water contain some minerals. So these have some effect in the metamorphism. And these are the effect of chemically active fluids. And the next topic is the type of metamorphism. So at which stages metamorphism is occurs. So based on this, and there are four types: progressive metamorphism, retrogressive metamorphism, local, and the regional. So these are the very simple types or classification. If the metamorphism occurs from the lower degree to the higher degree, that means uh, suppose the minerals are transforming to its higher order, that means shell to schist, like this, from lower order to higher order. So if these types of transformation is occurs, that means the minerals are is in the lower form, and then it is will transform in the higher form due to the metamorphism. So this will be progressive metamorphism. And retrogressive metamorphism, if the reverse condition is occurred, so this will be called the retrogressive metamorphism. The third one is the local metamorphism. That means these last two options are based on the boundary. Okay. So if the metamorphism is taking place over a small and limit area, that means the if the effect of temperature, pressure, and chemical fluids, these are limited to a small area. That means change is occurs in a closed area or comparatively small area. So this will be called the local metamorphism. And if it's go for a larger covering a larger area, so this will be called the regional metamorphism. And next one is the thermal metamorphism. So if the heat is the predominating factor, that means the metamorphism or the change is occurring mainly due to heat, and the effect of pressure is negligible, or the heat is dominating for rock transformation. So those types of metamorphism will be called the thermal metamorphism. So this is commonly takes place in the contact zone of igneous bodies. That means, as I discussed a few minutes earlier, that was the uh, intrusive igneous rocks. While these intrusive igneous rocks are formed, so the contact zone or the surrounding rocks are also, or he feel some temperature rise due to the temperature change or the cooling of the magmatic materials inside the earth's surface. So inside the earth. So this is an example of thermal metamorphism. Next one is the cataclysmic metamorphism. This is dominated by factor for the characteristic metamorphism is the direct pressure in associated with some heat. That means there may have some heat, but the main agent is the direct pressure. Direct pressure means the overlying layer. That means, so this is the effect of direct pressure. So at shallow depth, the effect of heat is comparatively lower compared to the greater depth. That means if you go for the increasing the depth, that means at the greater depth, the heat will be more dominating and effective. The next one is the dynamothermal metamorphism. In this stage, both the heat and direct pressure, that means heat and pressure both are predominant and acts together for the metamorphism. And also the chemically active fluid plays some role for the combination with the combined effect of bolo.
তোর পরীক্ষার সিস্টেম বিসিএস সিস্টেম না
So the combined effect of heat and pressures when acts in the metamorphism process involving the most of the complete recrystallization and reformation of new structures those are, that means the complete metamorphism is occurs in the dynamo-thermal metamorphism process, where the both the pressure and heat are act parallelly, and the complete structural change in texture, and the mineral structure also changes. So this is the metamorphism. The next one is the plutonic metamorphism. This is the typically deep-seated region, that means very in the very deep region, where the intense heat and the uniform pressure are predominated. That means at very greater depth, where the temperature is constant, constant high intensity temperature, and the uniform pressure, those are available. So in those cases, the plutonic metamorphism is occurs, and due to the increasing of the plasticity of the rocks at such depth, and directed pressure is absent. That means, one example, if we go for further depth, very large, greater depth from the surface, uh, in some positions there may have some hard rock layer. That means those are actually worked like a roof. Those layers contains carry the load of the overlying layer. That means at greater depth, it is not true that if I go for, suppose for 500 kilometers from the surface, or from the earth's surface, it's not true that a layer seated in 500 kilometer depth from the earth's surface, those layer contains all the load of the overlying layer. That's not true at all, because in some positions there have some hard layer, hard rock bed. Those actually act like a slab, or roof. So those collect or carry the load of the overlying layer. Also the effect of load is negligible. So in those greater depth, the due to the increasing plasticity, the direct pressure, that means the vertical pressure, is absent some cases. So in those cases, an uniform pressure is filled by those layers. In those cases, plutonic metamorphism is occurred. And next, another classification of metamorphic rocks. These are actually based on the process. So, if the main process is the mechanical process, that means these are some another minor classifications based on the process, based on the structure as well. That means cataclystic structure, granular structure, or muscular structure. As these are the some minor categories. So you may also go through for these categories. Just have a look on these categories. So here I also list down some important metamorphic rocks. So there's a quartz, marble, slate, etc. In each cases, I may list down some name of some important rock. That means, oh, this one is missing actually. Okay, here are some important igneous rock, some sedimentary rock. So while and at the we are very into our lecture or the topic of rock and mineral. So now we I want to recall some minerals. We early the very first of this first classes of these topics, we discussed the rock forming minerals, name of some scattered minerals. And after completion of the discussion about the rock formation, and we also familiar with some other name of some other minerals, some other rock forming minerals. So now here is some short list, or you may add some other minerals. Suppose the calcite, dolomite, gypsum, quartz, magnetite, hematite, and was a muscovite, limonite, potassium feldspar, and biotite, olivine, okay, galena, pyrite, graphite, bauxite, okay, and there are some. There may have some other. Here is only 14. So you are suggested, all of you. I will hopefully I will provide an. Assignment. I will just list up some name of some minerals. Suppose uh, 20 or 25 or 30, many, anything number. So I will just list up some name of minerals, and then and you have to write down the properties of those minerals, including the form, cleavage, hardness, color, luster, etc. Though as much as possible, as the form submission is online, so we are also requested to collect some image. That means for different phases. That means the microscope, maybe microscopic image, or maybe other images, natural images if available. Those are actually will be found in Google. Just search the name. Suppose you are want to write a note about gypsum, so just simply search in Google, and you will find many literature corresponding to these rock forming minerals. And also another terms must be include. Those is the a principal rock. That means suppose you write a note or short note about gypsum, so you will just include the name of principal rock. That means the gypsum is it found in igneous rock or sedimentary rock, or is it found in metamorphic rock, or sometimes one minerals may be found in different rocks, okay. So these are the instructions. I will also provide this instruction along with assignment in the written form. So
স্যার
hmm.
স্যার এটা কি স্যার পিসিতে লিখলে হবে?
হ্যাঁ, এটা তোমরা ইয়ে করবা, হার্ড কপিতেই করবা। হার্ড কপি মিন্স তোমরা পিডিএফ করে দিবা, বা আমাকে হ্যাঁ ইয়ে করে দিবা, পিডিএফ করেই দিবা, ঠিক আছে? পিডিএফ করে ঠিক আছে, ইমেজ সহ। হ্যাঁ, আমি ধরো লাস্ট যেটা দেখাইছিলাম বিভিন্ন ইমেজ তো ছিল, তাই না? তোমাদের হচ্ছে যে আমি লাস্ট ক্লাসগুলোতে দেখাইছি, সার্চ করলে ইন্টারনেটে তোমরা বিভিন্ন ইমেজ পাবা। সো ওইগুলোর সাথে
স্যার
হ্যাঁ,
বলছিলাম যে স্যার হাতে লিখবো নাকি স্যার
না
কম্পিউটার?
কম্পিউটার টাইপ করে দিও। এবং
হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করে তো দেখো মানে ছবি ইনসার্ট করে মানে ঠিক ইনসার্ট করবো
বুঝি নাই, বোঝা যাচ্ছে না, যে কোনো একজন বলো।
হাতে লিখলে ছবি ইনসার্ট করতে স্যার সমস্যা হয়।
না না, তোমরা টাইপ করেই দাও, বাট একটা জিনিস খেয়াল রাখবা যাতে কপি না হয়, ঠিক আছে? টাইপ করে দিলে কিন্তু কপি কন্টেন্ট চেক করা খুব ইজি। সো যে যার মতো করে ওন ওয়েতে নোট লিখবা, ঠিক আছে? এমন না যে আমি যেরকম দেখাইছি যে খালি তোমার হচ্ছে নাম, হ্যাঁ, প্যারামিটার, এরকম না। তুমি তোমার ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ দিয়ে লিখবা। দ্যাট মিনস একটা নোট, সাপোজ জিপসাম, সো জিপসাম সম্পর্কে তুমি একটা নোট লিখবা। এটা 3-4 লাইন 5 লাইন যেটা হইতে পারে, সাথে একটা ছবি, হ্যাঁ, এইভাবে তোমরা লিখবা। সো এই তো এটা যে যার মতো করে লিখবা। হ্যাঁ, গুগলে সার্চ করলে পাবা, বসে বসে সার্চ করে করে লিখবা। লিখতেও তো হবে না, গুগলে সার্চ করলে জাস্ট এই তো ইনফরমেশন পাওয়া যায়। সো যে যার মতো, বা বইয়ে আছে, তোমরা বইয়েও পাবা। তোমাদের যে বইটা বললাম জিওলজির, ওইটাতেও পাবা, ঠিক আছে? তো মোটামুটি এইভাবেই লিস্ট আপ করে ফেলবা, সামারি। এটা করলে মোটামুটি কাজে দিবে। এটা তোমাদের এক্সামেও থাকে, বিভিন্ন মিনারেলস এর প্রপার্টি বা ইয়ে সম্পর্কে। তো ঠিক আছে, এই হচ্ছে মোটামুটি আজকের টপিক। নেক্সট ক্লাস থেকে আমরা অন্য, আচ্ছা আজকে তাহলে একটা ক্লাসই হয়ে যাচ্ছে। নেক্সট ক্লাস থেকে আমরা নতুন টপিক শুরু করব, দেখি। আমাদের আর্থকোয়াক, প্রপাগেশন অফ আর্থকোয়াক, এইগুলো টপিক আমরা শুরু করব। তো ঠিক আছে, আজকের ক্লাসটা আমি ক্লোজ করে দিচ্ছি।